food. But I would like to take some questions from the audience. We're a bit short for time, so we're going to have just two. There's one there and one up the top. Oh, well, three. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, good afternoon. Stu Lloyd from Pata in Thailand. Question is for Mark. It's very interesting. I love kangaroo, big fan of eating kangaroo. But funnily enough, I only discovered that, being an Australian, I only discovered it when I was living in Singapore, funnily enough. Came across kangaroo in the supermarket there. But why don't Australians eat a lot more kangaroo, given that it's really healthy, really nutritious, tastes like everything else? You can disguise it as lamb or beef. I mean, the way I cook it, you can.
I think it...
and it's half the price of anything else.
I think Skippy, the TV show, had a lot to do with that. I mean, you know, he was a smart kangaroo. He could fly a helicopter and play records. But but the fact is, it is. I think a lot of people walk away from it, and I do talk about this in schools and also with people who will listen to me, that when we go to the butchers, we don't ask for a kilo of pig, sheep or cow. And I think the meat industry will have to address this one day and give the actual meat a name. Because at the moment, you actually go into the butchers, you ask for a kilo of kangaroo, you instantly associate the animal, and it's all about thought association. Same with crocodile, emu, it will have to be given a name eventually, and I think that's when it will sell. You're right, it's our biggest exporters are in Germany, Asia and America for the food, and it's a pity that in our own backyard here we don't embrace it. And you can find it, but you know, it's usually in an IGA or, you know, Coles last year when I was a Master Chef, which was a fantastic profile. Put it in, I did the masterclass on the Friday. And the next day, all of these people who watch MasterChef go out and buy this food. Well, Coles sold out a kangaroo the next day. So it's actually in Coles now, which is a great thing. But I'm really passionate about the herbs and getting them out as well.
Good, and just on the end of that, perhaps one of the big outcomes of this conference is we could come up with a name for kangaroo meat then.
Just not Skippy. Okay, over to, was it Tess? Can we take that one and then... Sorry, not much time for anymore.
Hi, it's Tess, Northern Territory Indigenous Tours. I just want to say to Mark that I'm one of the Indigenous Champions program. I just want to say to him that he actually came onto my tour to do some of the cooking, and we've developed a menu so that I can share to my tourists. So I just want to say thanks, and it has been working really well. So your spices and herbs are really good. So thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Chase.
That's good. Thank you. That's good. And Neville?
Me again. Hi, I paid to come here and talk. Yeah. All right. I think, you know, in all of our countries, our creators put those plants in that there for the reason that they are our medicines. You know, we mostly eat them as foods, but we eat them in a season to prevent the sickness that's coming. With global trading now, you can eat a mango any time of the year. But what I'd like to say is that, yeah, my medicine is my food. I eat it in the season. We want to share this food and this medicine, but how do the Indigenous people of that land get their just share out of sharing this knowledge and that? See, that's what really interests me. I know a lot of my people in this country have a lot of medicine that they want to put out to the world, but they don't for the simple reason they won't get their share out of it, you know? There was a story about the Kalahari Bushmen. I think I won't go into that because that's a long story, but you need to check that out because now they're fighting amongst themselves and the chemist is making all the money, you know? To answer your question about the 22%, when you asked about the doctors, about the people using the medicine here, I think a lot of traditional owners still use their medicine, but also a lot of the ones have been taught that their medicine is no good. You know, like an example is, I met an old lady under one of the strongest medicine trees I have in the Kimbleys with a grandchild that had a huge carbuncle on his leg. And I went up to her and I said, "Hey, Mum, why you don't put that medicine on that boy?" And she said, "Oh, you know that tree?" I said, "Yeah, she's a good tree, that one." I said, "Well, why you don't put it on?" "Here, right, next Wednesday, flying doctor come." You see, that's the mentality that I'd like to change in my own country. Our medicine is very powerful, and like, I'll give you a little story here, is that I have a 5 and a 6-year-old son and daughter, and I do cultural awareness with doctors that are about to go out into practice. And I say, take my children into the bush and tell them a sickness, and my son or daughter will diagnose that for you. And they come back and they're blown away, these doctors, and they say, "Wow, these kids are amazing." And I said, "Yeah, the exercise is about you encouraging my people to go back out into the bush or around their town and say, hey, you know, you got this sort of sickness. You must have a medicine in your land here to cure that, have you?" Maybe they don't know, you know, but I'm saying, like, my medicine is my food, so if my body doesn't need it, my body just gets rid of it. But if it does need it, it absorbs it. And more importantly for me is my indigenous medicine has no side effects. I've been 25 years without a doctor, you know. I have to go to a dentist because I don't have anything to do there except a pair of pliers. I'm frightened of a stick and a rock. But yeah, I think what I'd like to see with the sharing of indigenous medicine is the right royalties come back to these people. You know, I mean, indigenous people it's our culture to, if we see you have something wrong with you, we will share the knowledge that we have to help fix you. That's I think every indigenous person in the room, that's their culture. But before we start sharing, I think coming from the top down, you also need to come down and say, well, this is what we're prepared to share with you. And we as indigenous people haven't really seen that. It's all take, never give. Thank you.
I wonder, Professor Bodecker, if you'd like to comment on that?
Thank you very much. They're great points. And in the 1970s, I worked in the Kimberley for some years. And I'm aware of the kind of plants you're talking about and people's use of them. Two really important points I'd like to pick up from what you've said. One is passing it on to children, and the other is the issue of protecting the knowledge. I think that it always surprises me in cultures that have traditions of medicine and food that are promoting health, that these are not incorporated into curriculum. It's the most obvious thing in the world for kids to have as part of their science curriculum, not just geography or culture, part of their science curriculum, understanding the chemistry and the pharmacology and, the medical effects and benefits of these plants. And some of that information is already there. It just means taking it and putting it into the curriculum and pairing that with the kind of walks you take your children on, so that both worlds are familiar in the children's mind as they go through their education. This has the effect of validating the traditional medicine for an ongoing generation, so they don't do what that lady did that you described. Oh, well, the real medicine's coming with the flying doctor in a few days. It doesn't happen if they understand the science as well as the tradition. And I think this is a real challenge, particularly here in Australia, for educators to take this up. I don't necessarily agree it has to start top-down, it has to end top-down. But I think, examples, innovative school programs can just start doing it. That's how it'll then start a bushfire with it through the education system. On your second point, This really is Terry's domain as an intellectual property lawyer. I've written a bit on it myself, and it's a very important point. There are several sets of issues. It's far too complex to go into in this session in a short answer, but in principle, you're absolutely right, it should be done. Do I think Australia's doing enough about it? I certainly do not. And I think you have to sort out, where do customary rights exist? Are there national rights? And where is your fence of protection for all of this from international poaching? Piracy, it's sometimes called, biopiracy. But the problem is that the way that international law is framed at the moment is that if there's any ownership of something that's indigenous, it's actually owned by the government, not by you. It may be your grandma's or granddad's knowledge or your community's historic knowledge, but when it comes to a matter of law, with an outside company like Mary Kay with the Kakadu plum, ultimately it's for Australia to defend that as Australian intellectual property, and then is it yours? So all of these issues have to be sorted out, and I think it's long, long overdue to have a specific program or project on Australian Indigenous medicine and food and its protection with proper intellectual property.